Tracy Shannon. Thank you so much for being here. Tracy's going to share with you her experience with this issue. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm Tracy Shannon. I'm the Texas Director for Mass Resistance, and I'm a trans widow. You may not have heard that word before. A trans widow is a woman whose husband left them to transition into being presenting as the opposite sex. You may not have heard of that before because we're treated like we do not exist. The victims of this harmful ideology are hardly ever heard from. My first glimpse of this movement and this harmful ideology came when I went to see a therapist for what I presume to be marriage counseling to help me and my former husband with resolving the issue of his cross-dressing. I was told that because I do not accept the cross-dressing, or that I didn't accept the cross-dressing, that I was closed-minded. I was also told by this therapist who specializes in gender therapy that I'm a lesbian. I met with this therapist for just a few minutes before she made that assertion. And she said that's so because I married someone who had an inner feminine side to them. The same therapist wrote a letter for my then husband to start his transition behind my back, and he went on to take hormones and grow breast, and I was unaware of him taking the hormones. So that was my first, for 11 years I didn't know he was taking it. So that was my first experience with this movement. Now this therapist has written a book to help parents, to tell them how to support and affirm their children as they transition. She at least acknowledges the grief that the parents go through mourning the loss of their children. My second glimpse into this harmful ideology came when I went to family court. In family court, we fought daily over what pronouns would be used. And this was more than 10 years ago before Bruce Jenner became Caitlyn Jenner. And my kids were ordered by the court into therapy not to help them with the trauma that they were experiencing or with the loss that they were experiencing and to process their grief, but to help them to affirm their father in his transition and to tell them that they could no longer call their father dad any longer. Again, the ideology was put above the needs of the children and what was best for the children. Now, I have watched in horror for many years as this ideology permeates every institution in our country. All sectors of society, military, medical, psychological, and corporate, academic, entertainment, and even our public schools now. Children are bombarded 24/7, 365 days a year with gender ideology. Drag queen story time takes place in libraries and even in our public schools. The ideology of promoting transgenderism is put above the safeguarding of children in some cases. In some cases, we found that the drag queens that were held out as role models to these children, some of these children, LGBTQ identifying children, the role models, the drag queens, ended up being sex offenders, prostitutes, porn stars, and dominatrix for hire. I don't think these are suitable role models for any children, but what kind of ally are you? And how much do you care for these children if you will not safeguard them and you assume that drag queens are a role model for them? Children are told, be who you are. While given the nod to mimic the opposite sex and dress, and by medically and chemically, the process of medical and chemical impersonation of the opposite sex. Trans ideology is introduced as early as kindergarten to our children, yes, even in Texas. Children in schools are being fed unscientific and dishonest information, such as born in the wrong body, or having a girl brain and a male body. We must stop the harms that comes to children confused by this indoctrination. Puberty is not a disease. Stop putting gender nonconforming kids in an unnatural state with chemicals. Most children will outgrow dysphoria if they are not pigeonholed by this ideology. House Bill 68, Representative Toth's bill, strikes at the heart of this issue by designating transitioning of minors as what it is, child abuse. Currently, CPS, family courts, the medical establishment all endorse and promote the industrial scale child abuse of children. It must stop. Thank you.